you ever seen a fight?
I mean, I don't know. In real life?
Like a real life fist fight. Like, have you ever watched one?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I saw another one this week.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'll talk about it a little bit later.
Okay.
It was in a Home Depot.
Oh, of course.
Roll the intro. Welcome to the Let's Quit podcast.
Quitting is not always a bad thing.
If you have the right mindset, quitting can be the most powerful tool you have on your journey to success. It's certainly been helpful for us.
Whether it's flying through hurricanes, building our businesses, or just trying to get to bed on time, we're always trying to level up and improve our lives.
This is the show where we share the lessons, experiences, and friends that have helped us live this incredible life. So let's quit the bad and grow the good together. You didn't light the podcast candle.
Oh my gosh. I didn't light the podcast candle. I forgot.
You can continue to welcome the guests while I light the podcast
Okay.
candle.
Welcome back, everybody. If this is your first time here, we're super happy to have you. If this is your, 44th time here, thank you as well for following along and sticking with us.
This is the Let's Quit podcast.
Yes, this is the
episode
Let's Quit
44,
podcast.
I believe.
Yes, 44.
Coming up on a year.
I know. That's super exciting.
Yeah.
But we are still a listener-supported show. If you do want to support us, you can go to patreon.com/jennieanddavis and pick a tier that works for you. Otherwise, sharing the show, honestly, just helps so much. If you share it on Instagram, if you text it to your family, whatever.
I think we need to move this segment to the end of the show.
Yeah.
We always do it at the beginning, which we always want to say thank you to the listeners, but
Yeah.
like asking people to share the show or give their financial support. Like, if this is your first time listening to the show, I'm just beating you over the head asking for money.
I know.
So maybe we should
That's
put
true.
that at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Where people feel most excited and satisfied.
Or we could say like, oh, we'd love it if you share the show. And then at the end, we can be like, oh, share the show. And if you want to support us.
That might be the move, but it's
Yes.
not the move today. So
Maybe for the next podcast.
first part of the show, weekly update. Jenny, what have we been up to? Well, last week was our interview with our good friend Lou.
Yeah.
Big Lou's Workshop. So we really have 2 weeks to catch everybody up on.
Yes.
Which is good because it's been a sort of a slow-ish 2 weeks, I guess.
It's been slow, but we've also had, I don't know. I feel like we managed our time very well. I feel like there was a lot going on, but it didn't feel like there was a whole lot going on because we managed our time decently.
Yeah.
I was pretty proud of us. So first off, we stopped our daily YouTube videos.
Yeah, we did that for about a month. We put out a YouTube video about stopping the 2 YouTube videos.
Yeah.
That video was much longer than it ended up being. And there was some stuff lost in the edit because we never communicate very well.
And we know people don't want to sit there, for 30 minutes and listen to us talk about why YouTube
Sure.
isn't sharing our videos.
But
and
we
that's
could
just
have
the
been
boring
more
stuff.
clear about it because everybody in the comments thought that, and rightly so, like we were doing daily YouTube content and we said we were stopping, and a lot of people thought that we were burned out or we were unhappy with the grind of making YouTube videos every day. And I want to let you know, like, that was not the case at all. We enjoyed the daily videos.
Yeah, they were fun.
It was not too much work. It was backfire. Like it was actively hurting our channel's
Right.
growth. It had nothing to do with the workload or anything. Now, we were tired. We happened at the same time to go through a tidal wave of not taking a break. So that just coincided. It was just a happy coincidence. But make no mistake, the daily YouTube videos were so much fun to do. It was sustainable. We have grossly streamlined what it takes for us to make a YouTube video.
Yeah.
And I look forward to posting more content. It just coincided at a very poor time where we were also very tired.
Well, and we were learning from the analytics that like those videos were getting shown to fewer people. Like
Right.
it was getting capped. It wasn't even getting shown to our whole audience. Like even people who had the bell on and everything.
Well, so here's what happens if you don't know on YouTube. No longer do your videos just go out to the public and tons of people click on them. You have to prove yourself to the algorithm. What's going to happen is you're going to post a video and then the first, I don't know, couple hundred people, couple thousand people, depending on the size of your channel, who watch the video religiously every time you drop one, depending on how much they watch and if they watch or not, it then goes to another set of 1,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
You go 10 times. So if that first showing of people was 100 people, now it goes to 1,000 people. And out of that 1,000 people, if it performs well, you go to 10,000 people. And I'm just making up rough numbers, but it goes on and on and on like that. So you essentially have to prove yourself to multiple stages of people. on YouTube who watch your stuff. So if you've got 100,000 subscribers, let's say, your video might only end up getting 10 to 15,000 views unless you do something absolutely exceptional. That's sort of the number we've seen. So with a few exceptions of channels that are growing very fast, most channels that are in a groove, posting consistent content. Alex Steele's a perfect example. He's got about 2.5 million subscribers, and each video gets about 250,000 views, give or take.
About 10%.
Right. And if he does better or worse, the numbers go up and down from there. So, of course, he's got viral videos and stuff like that. But as far as consistency, that's about all you're going to get. And that's sort of a double-edged sword, right? Because as content creators, you're like, no, I want my stuff to go viral. But on the other end of the spectrum, it's like, I want some consistency. If I'm going to do this for a living full time, I want some paycheck consistency.
Right.
So YouTube will push your video out to, a certain number of people, unless it's just a terrible video. It's just, I think it's YouTube for a long time. YouTube has not helped their content creators at all. They've just Casey Neistat put it really well. He's like, it's the boss that you can't ask feedback from. You don't know what you're doing wrong, but yet you're still getting paid less.
Right.
And there's no way to know except just to experiment and hope that it works better.
Right.
But I think it's YouTube's solution to providing content creators a little bit more of a stable income, but that comes at the expense of a lack of virality in your content. We saw this with TikTok and Instagram. Instagram's sort of doing the same thing YouTube is, where it's sort of leveling out the viral hits. Like we posted an Instagram reel, which totally flopped on TikTok, which is where we natively made it. But then we reposted on Instagram Reels, and it got way more views than the one on TikTok, because TikTok is so new, everything is viral.
Right.
So it either does really well or it totally flops. There is no consistency in TikTok just yet.
But Instagram's learned how to play the consistency game.
Right. Well, they understand that their content creators need to be happy, and what they found makes consistent, happy uploaders is some sort of consistency in your posting schedule or how many views it gets. So did not mean to go down the rabbit hole of content creation right now, but somehow we always do that on the podcast. But
yeah, so that's why we stopped doing the daily videos, just because it wasn't paying off. And if anything, it was hurting the channel, because then every other video we posted after that seemed to reach fewer and fewer and fewer people. And if our goal is to reach as many people as possible, to help as many people as possible, we were really just like kicking ourselves by continuing to do the daily content. So we're like, as much as we like it and we'd like to keep doing it, if it's hurting the channel, I mean,
right. Well,
we can't in good conscience keep doing something that's hurting.
We started
us.
posting more often because we thought that posting more often would help grow the channel, and it was actually doing the opposite. So it's a lesson for us not to make assumptions like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think on a social media platform where eyeballs, you would think posting more often would help you, but in this very narrow set of circumstances, it actually hurt us.
Yeah,
so
it was very odd.
Anyway, we just wanted to be extra super clear about that to the 200 people that actually care.
Yeah, it's not because we hate posting the daily videos. We actually really enjoy it. Maybe one day we'll end up going back to that posting schedule if it ends up actually benefiting people.
Oh, we definitely made more money.
We made more money.
We sort of downplayed that in the YouTube video. We almost doubled how much money we were making from YouTube, but it was 5 times the effort.
Right. And
just to double the money. So it's 5x more effort for 2x the money.
And 0x growth.
And negative 0.3x the growth.
Right.
So, yeah, our growth was stopped. It was
completely stopped.
30% lower than it normally is.
Which makes us super sad. But
just one more reason as to why we're not full-time content creators, because we would go crazy chasing the numbers, because then you chase the numbers instead of chasing people. Right. And when you chase numbers instead of trying to help people, you're already lost.
Right.
So we decided to completely ignore YouTube numbers again. We're happy when the direct deposit comes in once a month to see how much money we made in ad revenue, but we're just going to spend that money on employees and tools and equipment anyway. So it's not like we're rich,
massively profiting off of it or anything else.
No, we are in the wrong. We're making YouTube videos for the wrong demographic if you want to get rich.
Right.
So for anybody that cares, and we'll shut up and we won't talk about YouTube anymore, but y'all, woodworkers, are some of the lowest paying advertising people on the internet.
Yeah.
For every 1,000 views, we get what, $6-7 or something like that. If you're in the finance category, have you seen this, like the really cheesy YouTube videos about like, oh, get this credit card because it's got this number of points and you can trade that in, the points, credit card points games. There's tons of YouTube channels on that. Those guys, because they're willing to spend money to make money, because the audiences are, they're not tight-fisted old white males. They're much more willing to spend their money. So if you make videos for that type of people, it's like $20 and $30 per 1,000 views. So if you're trying to make money on YouTube, you're not making woodworking content.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just be straight up with you. Like, you're in a different industry targeting different audiences.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just think it's so funny when people like attack us in the comments, like, you're just trying to get rich off of YouTube and you're not actually doing the business.
I was like, if we wanted to get rich, we would not have this channel anymore.
Yeah, there's 1,000 other things I would do if I just wanted money.
Right.
So
right, not why we do it, but anyways.
Anyway, that's enough YouTube nonsense. We
Yes.
just put that as the first bullet just to like gloss over, and we ended up
gosh.
spending 10 minutes talking about it.
Well, moving on to the next thing we did this
More
week,
social media,
which
but
is more social media, but
don't stop listening. It's different.
Yeah. I went in and I taught an entire office of real estate agents about Instagram. So I'm going to...
what?
Instagram.
Is that the app my kid has?
Yes, it is. It is the app that your kid has with all the pictures. But... So to backtrack, how this all started is we have this real estate office that we do a lot of boards for. I think we've done like over 50 boards for them as closing gifts.
Has it really been that many?
Yeah, it's been at least 50.
Wow.
And we've got a really good relationship with them. They're super sweet. Every time I go in to say hi, they're like, oh, come meet the rest of the team. Come to the conference room. Come talk. You want some candy? Whatever. And so they follow us on Instagram. And one day the head realtor was like, hey, I watch all of your little like Instagram reels and I love the videos. She's like, they're so fun. She's like, but I have no idea how to do that. And I just told her, like,
Let's
in passing.
Clear. This is our Samara Instagram, not our Jennie and Davis.
Yeah, this is a Samara Instagram. And I just told her, I was like, I'll teach you how to do it. And she's like, okay, like thought I was joking, kind of brushed it off. I was like, no, I'm dead serious. I'll teach you. I will come in and show you how to make Instagram reels, because that's value offered, right? I have a client that's bought over 50 boards from us. How am I going to keep them like with us? Like, the product's great, yeah, but you got to build that relationship so that they stick with you for the next 50 boards or the next 100 boards. And so I'm like, this is a really cool opportunity for me to offer more value that's not difficult. I've been making these reels and TikToks for over a year already. It's not difficult for me. It's only going to take an hour of my time, so why not? And so anyways, I just kept saying, yeah, I'll come in and do it for you. And then I got a text message about 2 weeks later. She's like, hey, would you be available on Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. to come teach us Instagram? And I was like, yeah, absolutely.
So what'd you teach?
So I started off like big picture, like Instagram as a whole, like what you should do on Instagram. Like,
what is that?
Oh man, the vertical content, like the stuff that grabs people's eyeballs, and that's what you need to focus on more than like the feed posts. So you know how TikTok or, the videos that you scroll through that are super easy to watch, where you just like, you'll be watching them for 30 minutes and then you look up and you're like, oh, has it been 30 minutes? Just the videos that are entertaining and pull you in and keep your attention. Suck you in
and kill your brain cells?
Yes, the instant like dopamine hits, those videos. And that's a lot of times in the Instagram stories, because you'll tap those and you instantly get a blast of information or a blast of pictures and color, and that keeps you looking. So you want to tap through everybody's stories. And the Instagram Reels gives you another option to like keep scrolling. It's music, right? And fun information or dancing or, thought-provoking questions.
It's just an oversaturation of information, basically. I mean, that's why TikTok works, is because it's a lot of information, pretty colors, lights, music, dancing, and bouncing things, if you know what I mean when I say that. Like, yeah, it's just straight up animalistic urges that are getting the content to like take off. And so now what you're suggesting is you just do that on Instagram?
Yes. So Instagram actually came out not too long ago and said that they are no longer a picture app. So for forever, we've always thought that Instagram was like, oh, you just post pretty pictures. But now with TikTok taking off like so quickly and just going to the moon, Instagram's like, well, now we need to copy that because we want to grow our platform. And so they said, we are now a video platform. Instagram is now a video platform. And so that's basically what I told them. I started out like really simple Instagram stuff because a lot of people in there were not familiar with Instagram. 2 people didn't even have the Instagram app on their phones.
Wow. That's so crazy for us to think about because we're in this world of social media and it just blows our minds to think that like businesses, like I feel like you're late. If you don't already have a presence on social media for your business, I feel like you're already behind the curve. But then we go and we find out that like a third of one of the best real estate teams in the Houston area like doesn't even have Instagram on their phone.
Yeah.
It's like, holy snot, how early are we? Like,
Yeah.
Jeez.
Which is really cool. But yeah, so I started with the big picture stuff, just saying like, hey, you guys, if like, if you're thinking about posting a picture to your feed or posting an Instagram reel and sharing it to your story, definitely do that one. Like, your feed posts are good, but focus your energy on what's working.
So
right
were
now.
you saying all this to them? Because you've been talking with a lot of jargon and a lot of like terms for Instagram. How much did you have to break this down?
Oh, we started out by just defining our terms. We started out with, does everybody have the Instagram app? The square one, the pink one. Yep. Okay. Open that. When you scroll and you see all the square boxes, like all the pictures that are just squares, and like, yeah, I was like, those are called feed posts. So when we say feed posts, that's what we mean. And does everybody know the little circles at the top of the page? When you hit the circle and, something will pop up and it's a vertical rectangle, like, yeah, that's an Instagram story. Like, oh, and all the fun videos you watch with like the dancing, the sound, those are called reels. So, I mean, we started really simple.
Okay.
I said, hey, to get to Instagram Reels, you click the little video symbol on the bottom of your screen. Everybody click that with me. So
do you think after
really slow?
Do you think after the whole hour, do you think that those other two people downloaded Instagram on their phone?
I do, because at the end of my little class, the head realtor was like, all right, I think our homework needs to be, each of us needs to try to make one reel by Friday. By Friday, everybody needs to make one reel. And I had people ask me questions too, like, I have a personal account. Do I need to switch over to a business account if I'm going to start advertising all my like realtor stuff? And I was like, yeah, because the last thing you want is to get flagged for like advertising and trying to sell stuff in your personal page, and somebody reports you and then your account's locked for 3 days. I was like,
see, that would just keep me, you scaring me like that would keep me from downloading the app. Like, no.
Well, to do a business page though.
Yeah, but like still, like if I was hesitant to download the app and you just told me there was a threat of somebody reporting me and whatever, I wouldn't even fool with it. I'd be like, nope, not handling it.
That's you, but these are all people that are like active. Like the reason I'm there is because they want to do it.
Oh, okay. I didn't understand that everybody wanted to do it. I thought it was just one of those neat idea things.
No, they were all like, hey, my kids watch these. I watch. They literally quoted like 3 other like realtor pages to me while they were there. Like, oh, I watch so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so's videos, and I love them, and I want to learn how to do it.
That's cool.
So...
Okay, so this wasn't a good idea, fairy idea. This was an actual, like, we need to be doing this.
No, yeah, exactly.
Okay,
they were getting more serious about it. And then at the very end, I was walking around and like, all right, now we're going to go through how to actually like put a reel together. And that was kind of, I mean, I showed him the steps, but that was the more confusing part, which I knew it would be, because if you don't even have Instagram yet, how is me teaching you how to put together a reel going to be helpful?
Yeah.
And so I just said, hey, there's a ton of resources. There's YouTube videos like crazy out there to show you how to put together an Instagram reel, but I'll at least show you the basics. So
cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's fun. So you solidified that relationship. You taught a bunch of people that aren't super familiar with Instagram how to Instagram. So that's cool. Yeah,
it was a lot of fun, and they gave me a sweet little gift after I was.
What was that?
Done. They gave me a big wreath with like a welcome sign on it for our front door. It was super sweet.
It was very nice of them. Yeah, they're our favorite team right now.
Yep.
I know you're not supposed to play favorites, but they're definitely our favorite right now. So that's cool. Yeah, switching gears here, commercial space updates. We don't have anything for you. We got a lot of YouTube comments the last week. You're like, give us an update. What's happening? Like, and I know that you guys aren't the ones badgering us for that, because you guys understand that there's a certain point where we can't share stuff with you. Like, as much as we love documenting and vlogging, like the documentation is going to get in the way of us getting what we need. What I mean by that is, if we say we've put an offer on a place in a YouTube video and the other broker finds that out, they automatically start watching our videos. They know what we need. They know what we want. They know our actual terms of negotiation. And that really takes the air out of the sails of our broker who's trying to negotiate on our behalf. So there's only so much that we can share with you about the properties we're looking at, which ones we actually like versus the ones that we actually hate, because we need to give our broker some room to negotiate. So this has been a very conscious effort. Like, we were very... I don't want to say we're misleading in our first couple of videos, but we definitely were hypercritical of every place that we went in the video and showed in the video, because if we fell in love with one of those places, or I don't even think we're going to end up at any of those places, but like if we ended up at one of those places, we didn't want the other broker finding that YouTube video and then knowing and having the leg up.
Because they all know we do YouTube, because they're like, what type of space are you looking? Like, I'm looking for a studio.
Right.
Like, I need a recording studio. So
right. So nothing yet. I'm just to be honest, unless we go look at more properties or we get something, we probably aren't going to have much of an update. But boy, when we sign papers, we've already got a giant Excel spreadsheet list of like video ideas.
That we want to do at the space.
We're so excited to like document every single bit of the process of moving in and getting everything settled and all sorts of stuff. So we're very excited to share when we have something, but as for right now, we just need to sort of play this close to the chest.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, the I Like to Make Stuff guys dropped a bomb yesterday, as of when we're recording. It's Friday today. Yesterday, they posted a video saying they bought a building, which is awesome. We love hearing that they're growing and expanding, and they're just so great to the community. And they're really, I think they're the entry point for a lot of people into this little niche on YouTube and content creation, because so many people come to them for one of their viral projects, or they learn a new skill, or they get a 3D printer for Christmas with their kid and they don't know how to use it. So they go to Bob's channel to, see like, how am I supposed to use this thing? So it's really cool to see them expanding and growing and wanting to help and serve more people in that way. So really excited for their success.
We like them.
I can't imagine anybody's listening. Maybe Josh listens. I don't know.
I don't know, but we're excited for them.
We're
That's
very
really
excited for all of them. So, that's cool.
Yeah. What else we got? Tomorrow, yes.
By the time you're hearing this, it's already done. We might even have a YouTube video out on it.
Who knows? We'll see how it goes. But we are doing a pop-up shop tomorrow morning at a coffee shop. On the Samara page, I am very into like Instagram stalking. I do so much research. This is how I learn about Houston, and this is how I learn about people.
This is how you make sales. Let's be clear.
But this is how I make sales. I am like relentless. Just so I can find cool places like this coffee shop.
So let me back up. This is how relentless Jennie is. Jennie just sold boards yesterday to a realtor, and this person was not on social media. It was a mortgage broker. It was another high volume client. It was a mortgage broker, and this person was not on Instagram, did not have a website, did not have any like search information. She was brand new. She just started doing mortgages and stuff like that as a broker, and she's very successful, like off to the races, but she didn't have any social media set up. Jennie found her because she liked another realtor's post of our cutting boards. So like Jennie sent a realtor a board, they opened it, they shared a picture on Instagram, and Jennie's following the people who like that and found this mortgage broker and then sold her board. Jennie is a savage on Instagram for finding these people. So with that context, now Jennie, pick it up where you left off.
So how I found this coffee shop was, I saw somebody I followed posted a picture of like this really pretty coffee shop, shot. It was like a latte art. You know how people do that in the white mugs? I was like, oh, that's really cool. And they're a pretty influential person. Where is this coffee shop? So I clicked into the copy part of the Instagram post, and I hit...
Which nobody does, by the way.
But I
Not
do.
even the followers read your copy.
Yeah. And so I clicked the link to this coffee shop, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're in like a really rich part of Houston. Like it's a really upscale area. And I was like, well, that's cool. And so I don't know, I just clicked follow because I was like, they might be a brand new, more influential like business. Maybe they can, sell our charcuterie boards in the shop or something like that. So I followed him, kept an eye on him. And then I saw this other pastry chef share and tag them in one of her posts because she was doing a pop-up shop with some of her pastries, like homemade Pop-Tarts and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, cool. And so I was like, wait a second. If she's doing a pop-up shop, why can't I do a pop-up shop? I was like, I could sell boards there. And then I thought even more. I was like, what if we brought the Glow Forge to the coffee shop? People buy the boards and we engrave the names there in person. We package them up in our typical packaging that we do. And then we like meet more clients. And I was like, why couldn't I do that? Because the people that go there spend like $10 on a cup of coffee. So why not spend $100 on my cutting board? Anyways, so I reached out to the coffee shop. I was like, hey, could we do a pop-up? After like a month or so of talking, we finally said, yeah, let's do it. Decided on a date. And that's what we're doing tomorrow.
Yeah, and then to prepare for that, we are out of Walnut charcuterie boards. This realty team that Jennie went and taught Instagram to, they have wiped us clean out of our inventory of Walnut charcuterie boards. So that's what I've been building all week in preparation for this store coming up at the end of the week, as well as just restocking because we're trying to get ready to move into the commercial space, and we need to have some inventory so that when we get fulfillment orders in the midst of the chaos of moving from the house to the commercial space, we have enough inventory. We don't have to worry about making a batch of boards as soon as we move in. So, I've been building charcuterie boards. Man, I hate that process. Like, I'm so happy we've got it narrowed down, but like, it's not fun for me. Which, okay, boohoo, like it's not fun. But like, I don't like the product. Like, we intentionally started with these very plain looking charcuterie boards thinking, we'll fix it later. We just need a product to bring to market. And they've done really well for us. But I think for the same amount of effort, we could make a much nicer product if we just, took a day to like redesign the handle and stuff like that.
Yeah, fix the template.
Right. Well, plus like we're running into supply issues. Like, they really don't like it when I call and ask for lumber at the very specific dimensions that we need. Like, the guy was giving me a hard time on the phone the other day. Like, he just did not want to supply it for me, which that's a whole other thing we'll talk about here in a minute. But like, I need to be empathetic to that and understand that they've got to pay two guys a living wage to dig through a pile of walnut to find, the one out of 8 different boards that fits our description of what we need. It's just not profitable for them.
Yeah.
So I understand that, and we need to just be able to deal with more lumber because that'll help us with waste, that'll help us with efficiency, and it'll honestly help us deliver a better product because we'll be able to do more if we have a more uniform, consistent lumber supply. Just that's what I've been thinking about while I'm making these charcuterie boards is like, how can we glue these up without taking up extra time? How can the nice, perfect, uniform material help us with speed of getting charcuterie boards turned out a little bit faster? So, that's what I've been doing. Oh, also this week we changed gyms. We stopped rock climbing. To be completely honest with you, we got bored of it. When you start anything, there's a very steep learning curve, right? Yeah. Like AVE talks about this all the time. Jennie and I love attacking the learning curve. We love learning new things. We love new skills, but it became very clear to us that we got to the intermediate stage of climbing. I don't know. It took us a couple months. Like, it wasn't super fast. A few months. I don't know, like maybe 4 or 5 months. Yeah. And we got to the point where we had learned 80% of about what there was to learn with indoor climbing at the gym.
And then the last 20% is like perfecting your form. And as soon as you perfect everything and you learn these new skills and go to the gym and work out very specific muscles in your hands and your forearms, then you can start doing the insanely difficult stuff. But it's like, that's the point at which I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to do pull-ups by my, 2 middle fingers or anything like that. That's a little intense for me.
To compare it to woodworking, it's like, you build some furniture and then you start getting into, I want to do my first like hand cut dovetail. And you're like, you when you're faced with making your first hand cut dovetail, you go one of 2 routes. You say, nah, that ain't for me. Or you say, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever. I have to do this forever, ever, ever, ever. And I'm never doing pocket holes ever again.
Yeah.
Like, you go one of 2 extremes. And that's sort of the decision point we were at with climbing. It's like, do we make this a lifestyle change or do we say it's been fun, let's do something else?
Right.
And that's what we chose. So one of our sicknesses is that we're always trying to do new things. Well, we went back to swimming. There's a gym pretty close to the house. And we signed up, and they've got a swimming pool, and I don't know.
Nobody uses it.
Nobody uses it.
We're the only ones ever in it.
We've been in there when it's been packed and that pool is completely empty. So that's great. Like I swam in high school. Jennie's learned to swim in college, and we worked out in college together at a local pool. But it's been a long time since we've consistently swam for workouts. So it's been cool, like going through my old swim bag and like pulling out all the old workouts that I had from college and what I could remember from high school. Like some of them are no joke. Like I posted one on Instagram the other day. That was one of the easier ones, but it was a breathing workout where like you only, if you're swimming in the pool, like you only breathe every 5th or 7th stroke.
That's hard.
Well, when you're doing a mile-long workout, that's really tough. Like your heart rate's up, you're using way more oxygen, and you're telling your body like, hey, you can only breathe every 5 strokes. And the faster you try to get to the 5 strokes, the more air you're going to burn. So it's this excruciating workout where you're just starving your body of oxygen. You want to find out how mentally tough you are? Take oxygen away from your body or food away from your body, and you will find out what you're made of.
Yep.
So anyway, we made it through. We're swimming again. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. Do you have anything you want to say about swimming?
No, it just feels good to be back in the pool.
Yeah.
It's nice.
It's low impact. It's better for your health long term.
Oh, they also have a sauna in there. So after you get out of the pool, like I go in the sauna and I get my little piece of like Arizona. I miss Arizona.
But it's a dry sauna. Yeah, it's not a.
Yeah, it's not a steam room. It's a very dry sauna, and it feels amazing. I'm like, I feel like I'm living back in the desert again. This feels so nice.
Yeah, for sure. So that's been fun. So let's get to the main event. The impetus for the title topic today. So I had to run to Home Depot this week. I don't even remember what it was for. I was like sanding belt, the oscillating belt sander. I've got the rigid belt sander thing, and it ripped. It finally ripped. So I had to go buy replacement belts. And as I walk into the Home Depot, I hear a bunch of screaming and yelling. I see 15, 20 people like near the checkout, like just sort of like standing there, like looking like birds watching, I don't know, vultures tear meat apart or something. I don't know. But like there were two guys, and they were just screaming and yelling. They obviously had just been broken up from a fist fight, because there was one dude who like had his arms behind the guy's back, and he was still yelling and screaming. And then the other guy was an employee wearing an orange apron, and like he was also getting pulled off by another worker, and like there were some other people standing in between him. Anyway, I don't know what these guys were fighting about,
but there had just been a throwdown in Home Depot.
They didn't know each other. I can't explain why I know that, because I'll get canceled. But I know from context clues they did not know each other, and yeah, it was just very evident to me that it was like these people did not know each other, but they like got into some sort of argument. I'm thinking, what kind of argument can you get in at a Home Depot where you start to take a swing at an employee?
Oh my gosh.
It was two grown men. Like it was a plumber and then obviously an employee. I just don't know. This is not to trash Home Depot. Again, good Lord, I'm so glad we don't take tool sponsors, or I couldn't tell this story.
Right.
Like, yeah, because if we represented Home Depot, they'd cancel our contract in a minute.
Oh, but yeah, for real though, like what is a big enough deal for you to throw like fists at a Home Depot? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Like not even another customer. I could understand if you had a personal conflict, like IKEA. You know how many couples get a divorce in the middle of IKEA?
Because they get in some fight. Or, no, we're not buying that.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like a fight with another employee. Like what has to happen for that to take place?
I mean, even if he says the most repulsive like insult to you, which you don't think an employee would do because they're trained not to do that. But like, I
don't. Did somebody try to stab somebody? Did somebody assault the other person? I don't know. Like. It's just crazy to me that nothing happened because the police weren't called. There was no actual problem. Yeah. Of course, like you're going to get in a fight if somebody like touches you inappropriately or something like that. That's not what happened here. It was just
a tussle.
It was just a tussle, and somebody got overheated, and it turned into a way bigger thing.
So my question. The door we usually come in by is like right by the returns. Is this where this happened?
No,
return
no. It was like in the aisles where the aisles meet the checkout. It was like right in that little area where they always put workbenches for you to trip over on your way to checkout.
Yes.
Like that's where it was.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was nuts. Anyway, so started thinking about Karens.
Yes.
That sort of, because this guy, I don't know his name, but he was a Karen. And we'll unpack that in here just a minute.
Yes.
Let's play the little transition music. All right, Jenny, hit him with the quote before we get into this.
All right, so this week's quote is, "The opposite of anger is not calmness, it's empathy." The opposite of anger is not calmness, it's empathy. And that's by, I don't know how to pronounce this, Mehmet?
Dr. Oz.
Mehmet? Yeah, Dr. Oz. You ever
the
see
guy
that
from
show?
Oprah?
Yeah, the guy with the TV show, Dr. Oz.
I wouldn't put too much stock in anything that guy says.
Well, it was a good quote.
There we go. Okay, cool. So what we mean by the title of the show is what it is. Quit being a Karen. If you're unaware, I don't know what rock you've been living under, but there's this thing in culture now called being a Karen. And I'm so sorry if you or your wife or someone you know and love very much is named Karen. But
we don't mean it by the name.
There's a stereotype of a woman with a very short bobbed off haircut who yells at employees and feels entitled to everything.
Yes.
They just type in like Karen gone wild or something. Maybe don't type that in. Maybe
don't type that in.
Karen attacks worker or something like that. And you will get tons of videos on social media of these women. They all look the same. I just think that's the funny part. Is like they all have the same haircut. They all like look the same. They all act the same. Anyway.
I mean, there's definitely people who don't look like that are also Karens. But it's like the type of people that are like spill coffee on themselves, and then like even though the lid says caution, like hot coffee, they'll go to like the little employee and be like, "Oh, I didn't know this coffee was hot. Let me talk to your manager. How dare you give me coffee this hot?"
Let me speak to the manager. That's the joke on social media is like, can I talk to the manager? It's that person.
Like you think you're so entitled that you can all of a sudden just right away talk to my boss.
Now,
like,
here's
cool.
the thing. If you feel personally attacked, you should, because it's my opinion and Jenny's opinion that we all have a Karen inside of us.
We do.
Some of us are just better at hiding it than others. This is a whole other podcast, but the type of person who is a Karen that we make fun of is just exhibiting, their poor brains are wired in such a way that they're exhibiting these patterns of human behavior in the public view, even though we all do them. Sometimes we do it privately, sometimes we keep it to ourselves, sometimes we've trained that out of ourselves. But these poor women usually are just making a complete and total like mess of themselves in public. And we can learn from them because we all have a Karen inside of us, and that person gets angry a lot. And so we gotta be constantly on a watch to be better, to treat other people with respect. And that's sort of what we're going to talk about today. So by being a Karen, there's a couple of different things that make these people stand out. Number one, they're unnecessarily rude and condescending. They're just inappropriately using the wrong emotion at the wrong time. We'll unpack that. They expect others to take care of them. They expect other people to read their minds and understand what it is that they want. And they just get so infuriated. And it seems like a ridiculous situation to everybody else, but not to them. They think everything is so real and so serious and everybody understands the context of what's happening. And everybody else is like, no, you're just like screaming and rolling around on the floor, throwing a tantrum because you didn't get what you wanted.
Right.
So we'll unpack that. And then the third thing is they feel entitled to more.
Yes.
Now, that's a little bit our fault as business owners. We'll unpack that. But everybody at some level feels entitled at some points in time. So we're just going to unpack those three things, and then we're going to talk about what to do if you find yourself in a situation with a Karen, whether they're someone you're working with or someone who approaches you in your business.
Yeah.
How do you deal with a Karen? And then finally, we're going to go over some action steps on how you can do a little bit of self-reflection and audit yourself and say, how can I not be a Karen? How can I kill that inner Karen that I have so that she doesn't ruin my part of my life? So that's the show for today. Here we go. All right, Jenny. First principle. Well, before we even get into the principles, like, this is not new. Like, social media has made this a meme.
Right.
But this is not new.
Social media just highlights things that have already existed. People have been talking about this type of behavior in people for years. I mean...
It's only now that we're seeing it at scale. Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, even back to, like, VeggieTales. Did you ever watch VeggieTales growing up? I know you did, but I don't know if any of the listeners ever watched VeggieTales. If anybody
had a kid or grew up in the church in the 90s, you know of VeggieTales.
Yes.
They took all these Bible stories and they made little vegetables and fruits like play out the parts. It was a really great show that like taught Bible stories to kids and stuff. Anyway, but there's one song, famous song, it's called Everybody's Got a Water Buffalo.
Yes.
And so it's just a silly little song for kids, and it goes like everybody's got a water buffalo, like What are the
Yours
words?
is fast, but mine is slow. Where do they come from? I don't know, but everybody's got a water buffalo.
And it's just a little song for kids, but like the grown up in the situation like comes in as a piece of asparagus. He's like, no, don't tell people everybody's got a water buffalo. You can't say that. Remember, this is VHS tape, and the little asparagus is like, we're gonna get nasty letters from people saying, why don't I have a water buffalo?
Where's my water buffalo?
And it's just so funny because that was such a meta joke, because like that was a joke for the people that made the film. That was not a joke for like the people watching, or like, sometimes kids shows put jokes in there for the parent. Like
Yeah.
it was like that, but it was such a niche joke. It just kind of made it funny because like this is before social media. And so the writers of the show were saying like, yo, you can't just make a silly song that says everybody's got this, because you're going to get some Karen that's going to write you a letter
Yep.
saying, I don't have a water buffalo. You can't say that.
Why would you write such a terrible, stupid song? It's like, we're just trying to make kid-friendly content. Like,
Right.
oh my gosh.
Right. So this is just them highlighting it. You see the same thing with Bob Ross. Bob Ross used to share fan mail. Well, one episode, because I used to have insomnia, and so I'd watch Bob Ross to fall asleep. He was going through the mail one time. This is back at 70s, 80s, and Bob Ross like read this one card. I think the producers of the show put that card in the pile just to like get a reaction out of him, or just to see what he'd
Who
say.
knows?
But it was somebody that was writing a very angry, scathing, inappropriate review of the show. Poor Bob Ross. Bob Ross, the guy calmly painting and trying to share, literally his show was called The Joy of Painting. And somebody's writing him a very rude, aggressive, nasty, angry letter.
It's like, how do you hate Bob Ross?
Right. And anyway, and of course he handled it with grace. He was like, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. Like, please don't write into the show saying that. He didn't say the person's name. He just sort of read it, and he's like, no, that shouldn't be in the stack. Like, whoever, like, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. Don't send us those things. So, but like, Karens have been around for a long, long time.
Yes.
It's just now that we're getting video footage of them in the wild, rampaging at the poor waitress at the
restaurant because she put ice in her water. Yeah.
Right. If any, like, I know we've all seen that person.
Yeah.
So anyway, just trying to make the point that this isn't new. The YouTube commenters, like, these people have been around forever. It's just now they have a megaphone via
Yep.
social media.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I guess that's all we're trying to say. Is this isn't new. Don't blame social media. This is a condition of human behavior that's always been around for some people, and yeah.
Yeah. So moving on to the next like point of like about Karens or like.
Oh, well, okay. So let me back up. The reason we're talking about this is we don't think that there's a bunch of Karens in our audience. This is the last thing I have to say.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
that's
this
true.
is not us lecturing against Karens. This is us just saying, look, we can laugh at them, but we can also learn from them. Because we
Absolutely.
all exhibit these behaviors. And if you don't think that you need this advice, you're probably a Karen. Like, straight up, like, go check your hairstyle. Like, it might be a bobbed off, like, highlighted cut. What's
But
that called? What is that
I
haircut
don't
even
know.
called?
I'd say, well, nowadays they call it the Karen.
They
but I
have the
don't know.
Rachel, now they have the Karen.
Yes.
So, we can all learn from this, right? So let's just have some fun. Let's chuckle at the Karens, and let's try to learn and improve.
Yes.
So, aspect number 1, Karens are rude and condescending inappropriately.
Yes. Yes. Basically, they're just mean to people, and oftentimes they're rude to the wrong people. For example, if they just get mad at the person standing behind the counter who's just a 17-year-old a summer employee working at a store, when really what they're complaining about is like a change they would have to make up at corporate.
Right,
That's
usually
unfair.
it's a policy change, right? So it's like the return policy, right? That's what a Karen would get really upset
Yeah.
about. It's like, it's been 32 days, and I know your return policy is 30 days, but I'm special, and I didn't know, and I couldn't get here until today, and like blah, 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 and just verbally abusing this poor employee that can't do anything about the corporation's terms and policies.
Right.
So I guess the question is, for ourselves, is have you ever taken your anger out at the front desk employee about the big corporate policy?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that happens a lot, with people, because they just get angry and they're like, well, surely you work here and you can make this change. But it's like, stop for a minute and put yourself in their shoes.
Can that person do anything
Can that
about
person
the policy?
Actually do anything?
Sometimes they can. And there's some of you right now that are saying, yes, you should always ask for more. Like, that's the sort of attitude we're talking about, is like, maybe just slow it down a little bit. Like, ask, but don't be unnecessarily rude.
Ask. Don't let people wrong you. Don't get cheated out of, what you're paying for, a service you're asking
If
for.
you really want to return something 32 days after you bought it, you know what? Being nicer to that employee because they get verbally abused day in and day out, you might actually get what you want. You might get the exception you're looking for by being nicer instead of just demanding it.
Right. It's almost like it's an exchange of exceptions at that point, because they're offering, you're asking for an exception. If your behavior is an exception to what that employee usually sees, then they're going to say, oh, maybe I can give you an exception on my end. But you can't come with, the expected behavior.
I did this a few years ago. They lost. So I totally screwed up. Like, I didn't know this when it happened, but like I totally screwed up. We got on a small airplane to fly, and then I had a connecting flight on a bigger airplane. So the small airplane, they won't let you take a carry-on because the overhead bins aren't big enough. So they throw it under the plane, and before you get off of the jetway to go into the terminal, you're supposed to wait there and grab your carry-on and go to your connecting flight. I didn't know you were supposed to wait there for your carry-on. I thought they were just going to take it from that plane and move it to my connecting flight. I thought I just lost my carry-on bag. And I thought, okay, fine, I'll just grab it at the luggage thing at my last destination. Well, I didn't know that my bag was sitting there on the jetway for a couple hours until I never came and claimed it. Well, I go all the way to Atlanta, which is a hub for Delta. I think I was flying Delta. And I go to the customer service thing because I can't find my bag. I'm waiting on some friends to come in for flights, so I'm not like super pressed for time. And I'm chilling at the baggage help desk, which saw plenty of Karens there.
Yes.
Very agitated people, and rightly so. They lost their luggage. But like, I get to the gate, and this lady, like, they're overwhelmed. They lost a lot of bags that day. I don't know what happened, but like this lady in a red jacket, which I didn't know anything about Delta, like that's like the boss. Like, she's in charge of all baggage claim for the whole airport. Well, she pulls me on a line, and she's like, "Hey, how can I help you?" And I'm talking to her, and I'm like, "Hey, like, I don't know what's going on, but I just can't find my bag. I'm sure it's around here somewhere." And she like looks it up in the system. It's not in the system. I've got my little ticket stub from the bag, and like I told her what happened, and she didn't really know what was going on because she works in Atlanta. She doesn't really know about the connecting flights with the smaller commuter jets.
Right.
And so, because they'd like even anyway. So we're talking, and I'm just like chill because I'm not super pressed for time. I probably would have been angrier if I wasn't pressed for time. But anyway, she puts out like the airline equivalent of an APB, and she's like, anybody who finds this bag with this number, you overnight shipping it. You're putting it on a truck and you're overnight shipping it, and we're paying for it, and you're getting it to this terminal. And I didn't realize that that's what she was doing with all these phone calls. And she told me before I left, she's like, I don't know. I was a couple years younger. She was a couple years older. She's like, sweetie, I don't know what happened to your bag, but if somebody finds it, it's getting here tomorrow. And I was like, yes, ma'am. And so like, I'm just sitting there waiting for my friends to come in, and like I was in the wrong. I was the one who did something and screwed up, but because I was patient and was just like, hey, like we'll get to the bottom of it. And she told me too, she's like, I deal with people screaming and yelling and throwing tantrums all the time. She's like, the fact that you're like this young, handsome young man, I don't know why old women love me, but they do.
Don't let it go to your head.
It's one of my superpowers. But this nice lady, like she took the time to like find my bag, and she went above and beyond because she knew as soon as she was done with me, she was going to deal with some angry person in the line.
Yeah.
So I sort of helped her out by being the calm person to keep her busy for a little while. Anyway, we found my bag. I got it. It was several days late. Like I never got the stuff out of my bag, but she gave me like a hotel voucher, a meal voucher.
Yeah.
Like she reimbursed me to buy some clothes but it was all my fault. Anyway, the whole moral of that story is if you use the appropriate emotion at the appropriate time, you're probably going to get far more than what you're looking for.
Yes, because so few people have the ability to use the appropriate emotion at the right time.
Right. And I'm the last person to give that advice because 9 times out of 10, I use the wrong emotion in the wrong situation. So I'm just cherry picking the one time I did the right thing.
Right.
And it wasn't even because I was trying to be a good person. It's because I had nothing else better to do that I was being nice. So what I learned in that situation was that you got to go forward, like just being nicer to people. What's the saying? Like you catch more flies with honey than vinegar.
Yep.
Like you're going to get more of what you want if you're just nice. And sometimes you got to come to terms with the fact that no matter how nice you are or how ugly you are, sometimes you're just not going to get what you want.
Yep.
So, and again, the more emotional discipline you have, the better you're going to be at handling that, whether for good or for bad.
Yep.
So, yeah, I guess just ask the question. We can giggle at the Karens, and we can just ask ourselves, like, where am I using the wrong emotion at the wrong time?
Yep.
Second principle, Karens expect others to care for them or read their mind.
Yes.
Jennie, you want to take this one?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is something that I feel like we all do. We sacrifice for others. We'll say, oh, I went and mowed their lawn. I went and helped them carry boxes into their house. And when something like... And then when we need help with something, we just expect everybody to come running to us to help us, right?
Without us asking.
Yes, without us asking. We just assume like, oh, well, I helped Julie out with her stuff the other day. Like, surely she'll come to my rescue and read my mind when she sees that I have 5 boxes on my porch and I need help moving things.
Doesn't she remember me helping her take her groceries in last week? How dare she just stare at me as I'm pulling these boxes into the house?
Right. And Karens do this to the extreme because they see themselves as martyrs for others. You know, that's basically what we're saying. It's like, oh, well, I do so much for other people. You know, they should just read my mind and want to instantly come, you know, help me. And you know, this, like, there's a stereotype of like this.
Guys do. Yeah. Well, so guys do this too. Like, this is not just a women thing. Like, we're not at all trying to say that.
No,
like,
definitely not.
The guy version of this is the big burly guy that everybody's intimidated of. Like, you know, the daughter's afraid to have a boyfriend or the daughter can't get a boyfriend because everybody's scared of her dad. And she's like, no, he's a big teddy bear. You don't understand it. Like, that's the guy version of this, is the big burly scary dude who's really just a softie on the inside.
Yeah.
So that's the psychology that's going on, is like they're so aggressive because they're trying to protect something small on the inside.
Right.
Whether that's
it's like
their
a defense
family,
mechanism.
their identity. Right. And that's what these Karens are exhibiting. These Karens that we laugh at, they're so rude and aggressive and punchy in public because they see themselves as the little white dog in their purse.
Yeah.
That's why all these Karens have the little white crusty dogs. That's another like meme and stereotype, is because they see themselves as this poor little defenseless dog that needs somebody to come in and like punch people to protect it.
Yeah. And so then we asked ourselves that question, like, what areas of my life do I just expect people to read my mind or like, do things for me or take care of things?
One of the biggest things that I learned, like when you or Eric are trying to help me in the shop, is like I was always expecting somebody to read my mind and give me the next tool that I needed. Or
right.
the meme that we're seeing on social media now is like when your dad asks you to hold the flashlight when you're a kid, and then the dad just starts like yelling and screaming and cussing at you because the dad's trying to like work on the car or whatever, and the poor 7-year-old kid is just like looking at bugs with the flashlight.
And the dad's like, how does he not know to shine the flashlight at this exact spot? And it's like, he doesn't know what you're doing.
Right. And it's just this terrible traumatizing moment for a 6-year-old kid when dad is yelling at you because you can't hold the flashlight correctly.
We all have it too. Yep.
Yeah. So that's just another example of what we're talking about here, of like, where are you expecting other people to read your mind?
Yes.
And can you slow that down? Yes, it's inefficient. Yes, it's going to waste some time, but everybody around you is going to like you better.
Right.
So,
have a little empathy. Like, why can't they hold the flashlight that well for me? Well, they don't know what I'm doing. They don't know where I need the light. Why doesn't, Julie from across the street help come carry my boxes for me? Because she doesn't know you need help.
Right.
If
Sometimes
you need help,
you just got to communicate it.
Shoot her a text message and say, hey, Julie, can you help me move my boxes into my house this morning?
But if you default assume that Julie across the street is mad at you and that's why she's not helping, man, that's where you get into some toxic thinking, because you're making an assumption, which is in YouTube comments all the time. They're making an assumption about somebody, and you really have no understanding about what's going on in their lives.
Right.
So sometimes just communicating things and asking, being humble enough to ask. You do not need to guess and be correct about everything. Mm-hmm. Like, anyway, that's a whole other podcast.
And then lastly, the last trait that we typically see in Karens is the need or the feeling that they're entitled to more. And I feel like, kind of like Davis was saying earlier in the podcast, marketing and like capitalism, and we're not trying to like poo-poo on businesses or marketing capitalism or whatever. We're just saying like we've
done
get
this to
so
ourselves.
much. Yeah, we've done it to ourselves because we give things away for free all the time. How many times do you see that? You buy 2, get 1 free. We'll give you 1 free if you come into the store this weekend.
Well, I mean, let's talk about the boomers versus the millennials. Like, the boomers raised the millennials. Gen X was in the middle. And the boomers complain about millennials all the time, and they say, oh, they're so entitled. Well, guess who raised us to be entitled? guess who wanted to give us a participation trophy when we were 7?
Yeah.
And you might beat your chest and you say, well, I didn't. But you know what? Your whole generation did.
Yeah.
Like it takes... there's more going on there, and you have to understand that like the sense of entitlement that we've baked into our culture is as a result largely from business, because every business is trying to give more away for free. That's how you hook the customers in. That's how you bait them into buying your stuff. It's what we do. We literally mail cutting boards to real estate agents. Now, like to the point where some of these real estate agents don't even call us back to say thank you because they feel so entitled, because they feel like they deserve it, or they don't feel like they need to call us back. Because they get free stuff all the time. Right. So we can either get angry about that, or we can just operate because of it, through it anyway. Mm-hmm. So I guess what we're trying to say is like, people feel like they're entitled to more, and it's not. We agree with you. It's a bad thing, but you can either sit there and get mad and complain about it and make a fool out of yourself, or you can just work within the limits of like what the culture is. When you stop trying to change the way the culture is and you start operating in it, that's where you can actually make a difference. Mm-hmm. So if you really want to get rid of the sense of entitlement, leverage that to your advantage, right? Mm-hmm. So like, I guess a way to do this is Chris Voss technique, an accusations audit. Mm-hmm. If you really want, let's say the example he uses is like if you want a late checkout at a hotel, right? So you leverage the fact that most customers are entitled, and you make it appear as though you don't feel entitled.
Yeah.
So you call the front desk and you say, hey, you're going to think I'm the worst guest ever. Now, think about what people at a hotel have to deal with. Think of the worst possible thing you could do in or to a hotel room. Punching the walls, destroying a chair, having pets in there when you're not supposed to have a pet. Like,
they deal with some pretty nasty stuff. So when somebody comes in saying, I'm going to be the worst customer you've ever had,
their brain goes to some really scary places of other people that felt entitled of what they could do into a hotel. And you say, I need a late checkout today. And they're like, oh, a late checkout. Yeah, sure. You got it, man. And they just do it. So you leverage the entitlement to make it, and then you come off smelling like roses, because that person at the front desk thinks, wow, they think that was being entitled. There must be better people out there. So you're going to get what you want anyway. You're going to prove that entitlement is not in everybody, but you're going to leverage it in a way where you still get what you want and you look better to the other person.
Yep.
Now, if you had called and said, I demand a late checkout. I'm a super platinum plus titanium elite member in your rewards program. I demand a late checkout.
I have given you so much money over the years.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You're shooting yourself in the foot. Like, whereas if you had just framed it a little bit differently, you would have gotten exactly what you wanted.
And you have an opportunity to kind of change the culture that you don't like, because now you're leaving that person saying, wow, there's people out there that don't feel entitled. And how do I respond? Like, that was such a weird way to call a hotel. Like, what am I doing that, wrong that makes me sound entitled?
So real world example. I hope that Jenny and I don't exhibit these characteristics of Karens publicly, but we dealt with this situation a couple months ago when we tried to open a new bank account for our new business. And nobody, oh my gosh, go to the comment section. Like, you're going to find the Karens in this comment section. Sorry if you're one of them, but so many people were like, I would have just up and left that bank. You need to go to a local credit union and blah, blah, blah. And
I would have told them exactly how I felt about their account right there in the meeting. I would have demanded a meeting right there in the moment.
Oh my gosh. Those are the people that we're making this podcast for, is like, you are not going to get what you want just by complaining. And the problem is, at some point in the past, you have complained and thrown a fit and gotten what you wanted. Mm-hmm. And we are creatures of habit. We find success with something and we go back to it, to the point where you become a Karen because the world has enabled you to complain about everything. And then you get less of what you want long term, and you're left asking, well, why? I'm doing everything that rewarded me in the past. But you reach a maximum of the amount of stuff a Karen can get, and you can't move forward unless you change your behavior. So
right. So then we can ask ourselves questions like, where do I start to feel entitled? Where do I, when you're asking for a service or something at a restaurant, or even talking to another person, maybe the person at the flight attendant desk or whatever, ask yourself, what am I assuming that I'm entitled to? Am I just assuming that I should get like first class seats, even though I'm asking for them like same day before the flight takes off? Questions like that. Like, what are you assuming?
Right. And the next thing is like, nothing is as real as you think it is.
Yeah.
If you're one of these people that gets very emotionally distraught with interactions between businesses and stuff like that, like, man, is it gonna matter? Like,
in 2 weeks.
Well, this goes into like how to deal with the Karen, right? So whether you're dealing with one in your business, or your family member is one, or your friend is one, and they're embarrassing you, how do you deal with a Karen? Number one, you got to get them to understand that this is not a high stakes situation. This is not as big of a deal as they think that it is. So we can slow it down and just ask a few questions. The first one, Jennie just said it, is hey, is this going to matter in 2 weeks?
Are you even going to remember this interaction?
When you're faced with a Karen and dealing with them, you just ask them, you get them to jump out of the current moment, and you ask, hey, is this going to matter in 2 weeks? And the answer inevitably is going to be probably not. So, hey, why are you making, like, is this really how you want to remember this situation? That's another big one. You want to break up a fight between two people. You're like, yo, is this really how you want to remember this trip? Is this really how you want to remember buying that set of living room furniture? You know, for the couples in the house that are fighting in IKEA, like, is this really how you want to remember this? And you just you pull yourself out of the current situation. You get a broader perspective on what it is that you're actually doing. And most people, given the right information, will make the right choice.
Right.
It's just trying to get them to snap out of it at the appropriate time.
Yep.
Next question you can ask is, or if you're dealing with somebody and they're just very unhappy, you address it. You say, hey, you have communicated to me. I understand that you're unhappy. You know what? If I was in your shoes, I'd be pretty mad too. And you just let that soak in, because sometimes all they want to do is be heard and understood. Mm-hmm. And then from there you say, what do you want me to do about it?
Not what do you need me to do about it, but like, what do you want me to do?
Sure, but like, even still, like, if you let the other person know that you have fully understood that they are upset and they are angry, sometimes it just takes the wind out of their sails. They've communicated that they're upset, and that's all they really wanted, was to just throw a tantrum, right?
Yep.
Like, the kids throw, we don't have kids, but I know this about kids. They throw a temper tantrum when they're tired. Like, when they get tired and cranky, they throw an absolute fit. But if you try
sometimes I get mad and cranky, and I throw a small temper tantrum, and I need to go to bed.
But if you throw them in the room, if you throw them in the crib and turn out the lights and slam the door shut, they're just going to keep screaming, even though what they need is a nap, and you've given them a nap. Sometimes you just need to address it and just say, hey, I get it, man. Let's hug it out. And you just hug it out, and then you say, hey, don't you think you'd feel better if you took a nap?
Yeah.
So, and like, kids do this too.
Yeah.
Like, so sometimes people just need to be heard and understood, and their feelings validated.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, what do you want me to do about it? And they're like, you know what? Nothing. Sometimes you might get that answer. Sometimes I might ask for something really outlandish, which just means that they haven't been felt and understood.
Yeah,
So you just got to let them talk it out, keep throwing their tantrum until they stop. And then you say, well, okay, what do you want me to do about it? And you just keep asking that question until they come to a reasonable conclusion that you can move forward with.
Yeah.
And finally, like, if you're dealing with somebody like a close friend or family member, and you're like, how do I deal with this in the moment? You know, it's embarrassing. If you can't snap them out of it, try to do the, like, hey, is this going to matter in 2 weeks? Or like, hey man, this is not that big of a deal. If they fight you, just let it happen. Just, like, obviously don't let them abuse or hurt anybody, but like, just let it happen. And then after, you're going to catch them with embarrassment. Mm-hmm. You're going to ask them, you're going to say, hey, what did you accomplish back there?
Yep.
And 9 times out of 10, they're not going to get what they wanted in the first place. So they're still probably going to be hot about it. So just let them, like, vent the feelings. Be like, yeah, I understand you're frustrated. Like, yeah, I was a little upset that they did that too. But like, did you think you were talking to the right person? Do you think the person you were talking to could give you what you wanted? And then if they've really calmed down, then they'll say, you know what? Probably not. That's probably just some teenager that they hired to work the front desk.
Yep.
And he really couldn't do anything about the policy. Or you can ask, like, hey, like, is that how you want to remember? Is that who you want to be?
Yeah. Is
like,
that how you want to be remembered by all those people surrounding you?
To be completely honest with you, man, like, you made me uncomfortable in that situation. Everybody else was looking at us and staring at us, and I understand that you were upset, but is that really, like, I felt embarrassed, and I don't want to feel embarrassed around you again. Like, is there something that I could do to help you? Put the blame on yourself. And just say, hey, is there something I could do to help you out next time? And they might say like, hey, yeah, if I start to get heated, like pull me off of it or something like that. Anyway, but at least you've got a conversation going about it now. Yeah, sometimes you just got to let it blow over, and then you've just got to let the guilt and embarrassment of what they did
eat at them
until they change. So sorry if that's the situation you got to deal with, but and then sometimes you just got to cut them loose. Sometimes you just can't, like, if they're unwilling to learn or if they're unwilling to grow and change, maybe you don't need to be spending that much time with that person.
Right.
Yeah. So action steps. I know we've been talking about a lot of them, but I'll give you the official dings. These are the official action steps.
Yes.
This week, like, identify your behavior in 3 areas. Just look at yourself, look in the mirror, and say, hey, where do I use the wrong emotion at the wrong time? Where do I act like a Karen? Maybe it's not public. Maybe I just get really enraged and I crush it down and I don't let anybody see my anger. But, like, why am I getting angry? Is that the right emotion to be using in that time? Emotion, there's a great quote. Emotions, I think it's from Joe Rogan, or maybe he stole it from somebody else. But it's like, emotions are a powerful tool, but a terrible master.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Like, it's hard to let you...
They're a great employee, but I think that's the quote. Emotions are a great employee, but a terrible boss.
Like, you can put them to work for you. They can do some pretty fantastic things for you, but if you're always accountable to, like, your anger, or it runs you and that's what, operates your entire being, then that's a little much. That's not sustainable.
Which sucks, because no matter how logical any of us are, we are all emotional creatures at our core. And so you've got to give the emotions what they want. You've got to vent that pressure, but you got to go be angry at a punching bag once a week. You got to go sprint and swim laps, to get that anger and frustration out in a healthy, appropriate way so that it doesn't come out in public at the wrong time.
Right.
The next one, where do you expect others to read your mind or share your expectations? A lot of times I get really excited about a new business idea and Jennie's just not having it. And I get mad about that. And so that's another time where I'm expecting Jennie to share my expectations for this thing. And that's just inappropriate. I'm expecting her to read my mind or share my values in something where it just doesn't matter. And then thirdly, where do you feel like you deserve something? Where do you feel entitled? This one's the hardest one to catch, but once you start catching it, you're going to feel so embarrassed.
Yes.
You're going to feel so small. Have some grace for yourself. Pat yourself on the back. Appreciate the fact that you caught it, and then try to work on it.
Because there's so many people that, go their whole lives without being able to catch something like that, or even ask themselves this question. So if you even catch it once, twice, like, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah. So anyway, man, this is a long podcast.
This is a very long podcast.
We're over an hour now. Jeez.
I think because this is a topic that we've done a lot of, like, soul searching in over the last probably like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, well, the transition from, like, laughing at the Karens to realizing, like, oh my gosh, I do that too.
Yep.
That is huge. And that's why this is so emotionally loaded for us, is because we're so embarrassed by our past behaviors that, it motivates us to talk about it for an hour. Yeah. But anyway, I hope you've thought this is useful. I know that this is way too much to cram into one podcast, but let us know what you think. If you liked the longer podcast, if you thought it was distracting, if you thought we went off in left field, hey, let's be appropriate with our emotions here. Let's give some constructive feedback, okay? But yeah, like, we're just interested into how you like this format, and do you feel like it was too much? Like, I guess that's what I'm really asking.
Is your brain full? Or are you like, oh my gosh, there's just so many points, I can't even, like, consume them all?
Right. Because the worst thing that we can do is give you the most powerful piece of advice at the end of a podcast when your brain is full and you just can't take anymore.
Right.
So I think the fact that I'm even asking that question means
probably it was a bit too much.
Too much. So we could have made this a 10-part podcast
probably.
Series. But anyway, yeah. That's a new podcast idea out there. Call it Karen Therapy. Just have, like, it's like AA, but for Karens.
Yes.
KA. Karens Anonymous.
Yes.
Even though the name's in the title. Anyway.
Yeah. Yes.
And again, we just want to say we're so sorry if your name is Karen, or if your wife's name is Karen, or if
they could have done it with any name. They just happened to choose Karen.
It's so unfortunate that these memes of culture now are, like, attaching themselves to somebody's name.
I know.
Like the Chad.
Yes.
Like, there's a stereotype of Chads. And so
it's not just the women. They've got a male stereotype.
There's a Chad of, like, the trust fund frat boy. Like, sorry if your name is Chad. Like, that's just going to be your destiny for the rest of forever.
No, it won't. Anyways, thanks for listening. again, if you want to share the show, we would very much appreciate that.
Yep. If you got something out of it today and you want to financially support the podcast, we would love that too. So far, we don't make any money on this podcast, so every little bit helps towards the production.
But it's a wonderful investment on ourselves.
Yes. So anyway, patreon.com/jennieanddavis if you're interested. Yeah. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.